All right, y'all. Back to boxing. So let's go ahead and recap this weekend's boxing event. Let's start with the fight that took place at the O2 on the undercard of David Haye versus Tony Bellew 2, or Tony Bellew versus David Haye 2, however you want to put it in the order. So one of the fights that was intriguing. Let's talk about the intriguing fights. Manuel Rodriguez versus Paul Butler for the vacant IBF bantamweight title. Well, I mean, what can I say about this? Manuel Rodriguez dominated the fight from the beginning. He knocked out, but he knocked down Paul Butler in twice in the first round. He methodically, systematically beat him down to a 12-round decision. I couldn't give Butler not one round. I think one judge scored it exactly how I scored it, 120 to 106, and then two other judges scored it, I think 118 to 108 or something like that. I think that's a bit off. I just can't see how Butler won one round in that fight. He clearly got methodically beaten up from the first round to the end. I mean, his nose got busted up. Rodriguez was on point with his jab and his left hook. You know, given that he is Puerto Rican, those Puerto Rican fighters are very, very, very religious with those left hooks. I mean, seriously, Danny Garcia, Felix Trinidad. I mean, wow, they are very systematically methodical with those left hooks. But I would say, though, is that I could see why Ryan Burnett decided not to fight the guy, or Eddie Hearn decided not to fight him as their mandatory. They decided to take on the WBA mandatory instead. I could see why they didn't want to fight Rodriguez. Now that he is the IBF bantamweight champion, where does he go from here? Hopefully he can get into a unification bout with Burnett, which I don't see happening, or he can try to get into unification with what's his name, with Salada Tete. You know, although Tete didn't look too impressive against Omar Navarez, which was a very, very dreadful fight, to be honest with you. And I'm a Tete fan. I like Tete. The WBC title pretty much is vacant right now. I'm not sure who's going to fight for that title at this point. I have to look into that. So, yeah, good win for Rodriguez. Definitely made me a fan watching him perform that day against Paul Butler. And what's so interesting about this fight is that Paul Butler missed the weight by 3 pounds. From my recollection, 3 pounds. Didn't bother to try to shed the weight off. That didn't matter anyway. So, if he had won the fight, he wasn't going to win the title. So it was up for Rodriguez to win it, and he methodically beat him down. So the 3 pounds didn't really mean that much to Rodriguez. It didn't really have a effect on Paul Butler's performance. But Paul Butler's seen better days. Where does he go from here? Maybe he's got a few fights left in him or so. But yeah, it's going to be a tough road for him to get a world title back. So we'll see. I mean, he'll definitely probably get a world title shot, but to reclaim a world title, that's going to be a bit of a little bit of a stretch from this point. Then on to the main event, David Haye versus Tony Bellew. I mean, David Haye came out to the song, "Ain't No Stopping Us Now." Got the group. Ain't no stopping us now. We got the group. I love those oldies, man. But David Haye came out to that music, and then before he came out to it, they were playing Sweet Caroline. Oh, man. Hey, it is what it is. It's a ritual when it comes to a main event in the UK for a boxing event. So, hey, can't knock him for it, but it can be a little annoying. But anyways, Tony Bellew proceeded after David Haye, and going into the fight, David Haye looked a little bit more sharper in the first round. He was getting off his combinations. He was out jabbing Tony Bellew. He was making Bellew look a little bit lethargic in the first 2 rounds. I thought that, David Haye's going to actually win this fight if he keeps this up, as long as he doesn't engage with Tony Bellew. But what do you know what happened? David Haye just couldn't help himself. He let Tony Bellew get inside to get off his shots, and he tried to trade with him, and he got put down badly. He got hurt badly in the 3rd round up against the ropes. And that was at the end of the round. He got up and he was wobbled. He was staggered. He had no legs. And then he got put down again, I think, with another left. And, to to almost close the round. So or I think it was a right that put him down, and he literally just was gone, and he was out on his feet, going back to his corner, struggling. And then, of course, in the fourth round, he survived that round technically. So Tony Bellew definitely dominated that round. So we give that 10-9 to Bellew, 10-7 to Bellew. So that's pretty much it. He was head of the fight after that. And then the fifth round, when David Haye seemed to have gotten his legs back, he seemed to gotten his wherewithal and his senses. The next you know, he tried to trade with Bellew again. He got clipped with a right in the center of the ring and then got put down badly. And then he got up, struggled. Bellew launched his barrage and assault up against the ropes, and the referee, Howard Foster, just stepped in and stopped the fight, which is the right thing to do. David Haye's legs were gone. His legs didn't quite recover after the first knockdown, to be honest with you. And that was one thing that was questioned going into that fight, because a lot of people were wondering, given the fact that he suffered a very serious Achilles heel injury, which by most athletic standards, that takes a lot of time to recover from. It takes more than a year to recover from an injury like that. We was wondering how his legs hold up against Tony Bellew if he were to try to plan his shots or commit on his shots. The problem is that Haye just couldn't do it. Yeah, he could jab. He was going to be able to move in angles a little bit, but his stance is way too wide to where he didn't have enough time to recover or use his reflexes to get out and get away from Bellew's shots. And the fact is that after watching that performance, David Haye just needs to hang it up. He doesn't have it anymore, you know. I mean, definitely good. You know, they got to give credit to Tony Bellew though, because this is like the fourth of his last three. This is third of his last three fights when he was the underdog. He was the underdog against Makabu. He wasn't supposed to win that fight at the cruiserweight title fight. He wasn't supposed to win the first David Haye fight, which many people perceived as a cherry pick for David Haye, because he was in line to get a title shot of the winner of Joseph Parker and Andy Ruiz for the vacant WBO title, but he passed up on that opportunity to chase. He felt there was an easier route to get a big money title shot against Anthony Joshua by picking on Tony Bellew, who, you know, many people felt that it was not that good of a fighter. Well, he's a good fighter, but they thought he was technically outgunned, which on paper he is. But the fact is that Tony Bellew derailed those plans the first fight, and he derailed those plans possibly the second time in this fight. So props to Tony Bellew, underdog in 2 fights against David Haye, underdog against Ilongo Makabu in the cruiserweight. So yeah, all props to him. So where does Tony Bellew go from here? He's adamant, made it clear that he won't be fighting Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua. He's made that very clear, because he doesn't know what he doesn't know what he wants to do after that. There's speculation that he may drop back down to cruiserweight. They take on the winner of the World Boxing Super Series tournament, and that final is between Murat Gassiev and Alexander Usyk, which unfortunately is being postponed for a few months due to the injury of Usyk. And there also is going to be a venue and location dispute in correlation to that, because Usyk has made it clear, because they were initially set the site up to be in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. Coincidentally, that's where the WWE had their greatest Royal Rumble event at. I think a couple weeks ago. So the organizers of that series have decided to change the location in the venue, and they were thinking of moving it to Russia, where Gassiev's home country is at, and Usyk has a big problem with that. And he's made it abundantly clear that he will return to the ring in June or July. But if I were to return and that the fight was going to take place in Russia between him and Gassiev, he will not be there. So he's made that clear that I'm not going to Russia under any circumstances. So that's going to be a big problem, how they're going to settle this situation with Usyk when he recovers from his injury. But anyhow, he did proceed to do one thing, which I think that was very brash for Tony Bellew to do. He called out Andre Ward. Wow. He called out Andre Ward, and Andre Ward responded to that too today. And Andre said, look, first thing first, I'm doing a lot of things right now. I mean, damn, I mean, you know, he said something where, and this is an interview with Fight Hype, he said, look, I mean, hey, I've been trying to talk to Eddie Hearn for a long time now to set up a fight with one of his guys, and he's never returned my calls. That's what he was saying. I guess I don't know if he was joking or something like that, but Andre did proceed to say, and in more of a more paraphrasing what he's saying, not for verbatim, more than paraphrasing what he's saying. It's like, look, man, I'm joining my retirement. I don't need to prove anything right now. I had a great career. I'm blessed with my outside projects. I'm filming Creed 2. I just got finished filming that movie, which I can't wait to see. That comes out, I think comes out late this year. Yeah, November, I think. I have to go back and check the release date, but Creed 2 is coming out. He just got finished filming that. Then he's going to be filming The Contender again, the reboot of that show. So he's got a lot of shoes to fill to make that show a success, because Sugar Ray Leonard and Sylvester Stallone were the ones who were the creators of that show, and Stallone co-produced it as well along with Leonard, and that show was a success. It produced good fighters like Ovando Gomez and Ishe Smith, who was a decent fighter, and Sakio Bika and others. So yeah. So and K9 Bundridge, forgot to mention him. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that reboot of that show. So yeah, Andre's doing well. He's in a good place right now. He doesn't need to get back in the ring. He's enjoying his retirement. He's about to have another child, his 5th child. So he doesn't need to prove anything to get back in there and fight Tony Bellew. But if he does fight Tony Bellew at cruiserweight, that'd be a good fight. It'll definitely be a good win. And if he does that and then beats Alexander Usyk, but I don't see how realistic that could be. Imagine if Andre Ward comes out of retirement and beat those two guys at cruiserweight. That would be amazing if he could do that. But obviously he has hinted that he's not coming back. And speaking of Andre Ward, he's being trolled by Sergey Kovalev again. Oh Lord, Sergey Kovalev just can't let this shit go. I mean, he just cannot let the shit go. I mean, he still can't get over the 2 losses he had with Andre Ward. And Andre Ward just pretty much, Andre Ward put up a meme or something like that, say undefeated, this, that, and the third. And then Kovalev, pretty much, he mocked his undefeated thing. He's like, yeah, undefeated for what reasons? For hitting below the balls or something like that? I think that's what he said. And then Ward responded to him and said, first of all, little man, stay off my fucking page. The record books is what it is. 2-0, undefeated against you. Oh, man. I mean, Kovalev is just a salty little prick, man. He just can't let shit go. I mean, dude, that fight happened a year ago. Get over it. Andre Ward retired. You got a career going. You are a champion now. So focus on your career. Andre Ward is not coming back to fight you anymore. It's done. He fought you twice and he beat you twice. Whether you agree with the first decision, whether you agree with the stoppage in the second fight, he beat you. End of story. Get over it. So, on to the other card that took place in Carson, California on HBO. Gennady Golovkin versus Vanez Martiroyan. Before that, there was a very unique fight that took place on that undercard, and that was Cecilia Breakhus, who is the first lady of boxing in the women's division. She's the only undisputed women's champion of the world at welterweight. Okay, she took on forgot her name, Kais, I think. Yeah, Kais, and that was a very, 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 very tough fight. I mean, Cecilia is a very, very good technical fighter. She uses her jab extremely well. She's very good at placing her uppercuts. When you get in the inside, she places them in her uppercuts in areas that you don't see them coming. And she was hitting them pretty well against Kais. And next thing you know, I think it was the 7th round, I believe. Cecilia was up on the cards. I had her winning the fight 5-1. And then next you know, a knockdown happened. I mean, Kais hit Cecilia Breakhus with a ferocious straight right, and it buckled and it put Cecilia Breakhus down. I mean, she was hurt badly, and that's the first time I've ever seen Breakhus get hurt like that. She was hurt badly, and her legs were almost stumbling a little bit. And then I think I gave Kais that round, obviously 10-8. And then in the 7th round, Kais hit her again with some straight rights because Cecilia Breakhus was keeping her left hand low. She hit her again to the point she fell to the ropes, and that ended the round. So I scored that round for Kais, and then next thing you know, Cecilia maintained control and won the fight. Of course, the crowd booed the decision because they felt that Kais was putting it on Breakhus, but I didn't see it that way. Breakhus was clearly controlling the fight for the first 5 rounds, and then it turned around in the 6th and the 7th. All right. So, and they were throwing bombs at each other too. Jesus. I mean, they were booing Cecilia Breakhus for that decision. I'm like, yeah, that's not her fault. She fought her best way she could, and they gave her the decision. Was the, I don't see no robbery, but I know Kais wants that. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. I may have butchered her name. I'm sorry. But her opponent just, Kais is like, look, I don't definitely want to see them rematch. We made history because that's the first time HBO has ever broadcast a women's boxing event, which is something they made, a milestone. I mean, did Breakhus look pretty impressive? Yeah, she did. But of course, she fought a tougher opponent who actually is a natural, bigger individual. She came down from middleweight, for God's sake, to fight her. So will there be a rematch with Breakhus and Kais? Maybe, but I definitely want to see it. But on to the main event. Gennady Golovkin versus Vanen Martiroyan. All right. Now, we all know the story behind this. Martiroyan has been out of the ring for 2 years. His last fight was in 2016, coming off a loss against Arizlan Lar, who he drew with it prior to that. And it's his first fight at middleweight on the world level. So, yeah, Gennady Golovkin is making his quote-unquote 20th title defense, which is heavily disputed at this point. So anyhow, let's proceed to the fight. Entertaining fight for the first 2 rounds. I have to admit, Golovkin is a damn exciting fighter, and I do like his style of fighting. I have to give him credit for that. All right. So this was a last-minute step-in opponent. Like I said, I'm not gonna, fault Golovkin for taking on Martiroyan, but before I get into that, first round I gave to Martiroyan. Martiroyan was getting his combinations off. He was hitting him with the jab. He was hitting, he was getting his, of course, Golovkin's Achilles heel is that he doesn't have the hand speed to trade. What he can do, he's going to take as much shots as he can. He's going to stalk you down. He's going to swarm you, and he's going to beat you down to the ropes and pin you to the corners, and that's what he does. But there was, in that first round, Martiroyan hit Golovkin with a uppercut that he flew off the canvas. I mean, he jumped up just like how Kell Brook hit him with an uppercut that he flew off his feet, So, definitely gave the first round to Martiroyan. Then the second round, Golovkin proceeded to, put it on Martiroyan and get him out in the second round. And that was it. So, in that post-fight interview, Max Kellerman did kind of put Triple G on the spot. Triple G to say, I'm willing to fight anybody. I don't care who it is. And he said, okay, I'm going to name the names. Charlo, Andrade, Jacobs, Saunders, and who do you want to fight? And I don't know. I think Triple G was being passive about that when those names were mentioned. So he did say he wanted to fight anybody, but when Kellerman put him on the spot, said, do you want to fight those 4 guys? And then he kind of was a little passive about it, but it is what it is. But the bottom line is that we know that he's going to be fighting Canelo in the rematch involved. They're negotiating that right now. And the problem is that Triple G does have the IBF situation to worry about, which more than likely they could strip him because the IBF didn't sanction that the title for that fight because their stipulation was that they were going to sanction it unless Golovkin writes a exemption approval prior to the fight, and he had to commit. And that part of that exemption is that you have to commit to fighting Demarchenko, who's the mandatory. You have to fight him within 90 days, and since he has failed to do that before the Martiroyan bout, more like he's going to get stripped. They're going to take the title away from him, which is more likely is going to happen, which is very disappointing in my opinion. But hey, it is what it is. I can understand in one sense that he is at the end of his career, technically, so he's going to go for one big money fight and then just call it quits. And that's against Canelo, plain and simple. So, very interesting week on the cards. What else we could talk about here? Dillian Whyte, man, let's talk about that one for a second. He called out Deontay Wilder again. It's funny though because a lot of people get mad at Deontay Wilder for for allegedly using AJ's name to prop up his profile. Let's be fair here. Every fighter does that. It's not like it's nothing new. They've done that in the cross of time. I mean, didn't Floyd Mayweather do that with Arturo Gatti? Used his name to prop up his profile. Didn't he do that with Oscar De La Hoya? Exactly. In all fairness, did Manny Pacquiao kind of do the same thing? Yes, he did. What else we got here? Now, isn't Dillian Whyte doing the same thing to Deontay Wilder, using his name to prop up his profile? Yeah, same thing. It's the norm. It's nothing. I have no problem with that. But anyways, Dillian called him out again, and he took up on Deontay Wilder's proposal. He said, look, I will fight Louis. If I fight Luis Ortiz and I bang him out and I beat him and I knock him out better than you did, technically that's what he said. If I beat him, then I will fight you. Put in the contract, send an offer over to me to make that a deal, and I'll sign on it. So I actually like Dillian's approach now, because now all of a sudden he's willing to take that dangerous step against Luis Ortiz. So he's coming to his senses now. So I can't knock him for saying that. All right. But the one thing I would say though is that people, a couple people that came at me and saying, "Nah, Dillian Whyte is not timid about fighting Ortiz." He did call him out. I was like, yeah, but he called him out when Ortiz was signed to Matchroom, but he wasn't calling him out lately when the fight got announced. And before that fight got announced, when Ortiz had left Matchroom. So, and then I also pointed out that Eddie Hearn didn't like the idea that Ortiz was named the other fighter in the final eliminator. But then again, Eddie Hearn, I did see the interview with Fight Hype. Eddie Hearn did come out and address the WBC situation once again. It said, okay, we don't mind fighting Ortiz, but as long as you make that fight a final eliminator, the first mandatory. Which I believe that Hearn is willing to compromise on the situation, because the WBC did say they are going to put out a resolution within this week, I believe, coming up on that situation regarding Ortiz and Brazil, whatnot, which is somewhat of a mess. So we'll see. But then again, I'm also hearing conflicting reports too that they are in negotiation of signing a deal to fight Kubrat Pulev. So that fight pretty much is almost penciled in for July 21st. Now, here's the thing that's kind of strange. Let's say Ortiz does decide to take the Ortiz fight, right? If he decides to take the fight and he does beat Ortiz, he still is going to have to wait at least 6 to 9 months for his mandatory shot against Deontay Wilder. All right. So it doesn't matter what route he goes; he still have to wait to get a shot either way. Now the difference is that he doesn't have to wait until the fall of 2019 to get his shot. Rather, he will get it around the summer of 2019 based off the current trajectory. If hypothetically he does fight Ortiz, let's say within 3 months from now, and he beats him, so he'll wait. I won't say summer, maybe about winter of next year. Around that time, he'll get his shot. So we'll see. Between winter or spring, there you go. Between winter or spring of next year, if hypothetically he gets past Ortiz, if he decides to go the WBC route. So I think he's serious. I think Dillian is very genuine about it. I'm cool with the fact that he's stepping up. He's willing to take up on Deontay Wilder's offer. So now Deontay Wilder, my message to you, man. I suggest you be the man of your word. You give Dillian Whyte the contract. Let's get it going. Get him to sign on it. Say, okay, if you want to take up on my offer, let's drop the deal to make it happen. There you go. Problem solved. So, anyways, let me know what your thoughts about this. Where does Golovkin goes from here? We all know that he's going to go and fight Canelo in fall. Do you disagree with that fact? Do you think he should be wasting his time with Canelo? Or where does Tony Bellew go from here? Do you think he should stay at heavyweight and take on a few more opponents? Or do you think he should go back down to cruiserweight and take his chances against the likes of Usyk or Breakhus or Gassiev? Let me know what your thoughts about this. I'm out.